I'm always living in the don't commit fraud world, but there's also don't screw up HR wise. You don't want to get sued. HR lawsuit can put you out of business.
I don't care if you are going into practice with your childhood dentist, your mom's best friend, whoever it is, you must have a signed contract.
Many associates are paid on collection. If we don't collect, just getting the co-insurance amount is not going to pay your bills. What is it that you wish we understood?
That the scariest conversations that we have are probably with upset employees and not upset patients.
My goal is to share insights and business strategies so that dental professionals like you can grow your company. My plan is to grow this podcast to reach and support more people in our field. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. It helps the show grow. Plus, I don't want you to miss an episode. Thank you for being a part of the journey. We are back with another edition of Nobody Told Me That, and I have a good friend on with me, another dentist that likes insurance and business. So I'm telling you, they're not unicorns. They're actually out there, right, Amri? So Dr. Amrita Patel is with us. Hey, how you doing?
Awesome. We do exist. We're not that rare, I think. I'm hoping that we become less rare.
That's the thing. I want people to see that they exist. Like, it's not like some, like, what do they call it? The jackalope, where it's like the animal that people say, they mount on the walls and people are like, that's not real. And I always fall for it, but whatever. So I'm sure you are real. Dr. Christy Bateman is real. I've come in contact with a lot of others that are real. So I met you a couple of years ago, and I believe that when I did meet you, you had just gotten the award, the 10 under 10. And that's you have accomplished so much in your first 10 years out. I want you to tell people, about yourself. But I mean, you are, when I met you, you were in your dad's practice in New Jersey running that. Then you went across to South Dakota, which is a whole ball of wax, right? Got married, have an amazing dog. The dog, you guys, I'm going to have to put a picture
the Yankee Doodle.
It's Yankee Doodle. Yeah, like so cute. And then you also write a lot. And you were always active in that. And when I had first met you, you were doing a ton of speaking to new dentists and getting the business out there and empowering and all that. And then all of a sudden, I see you're speaking with the California Dental Association. You're their early career dentist go-to. And you're speaking on that, which includes a lot of stuff. But what did I miss in there? What should people know about Amrita Patel?
What should people know? So the one thing you missed is that I'm a New York girl, not a New Jersey girl. So our practices are in New York. Yep. When you met me, I was like living the New York life, running our family-owned group of practices with my father and doing some lecturing. And then 3 years ago, when I came to the South Dakota Dental Association to help with some of their programming, they were nice enough to send their state's president-elect to pick the speakers up at the airport, and we got married last year. So I have a nerdy dental association love story, and so that's why I'm in South Dakota now. But
with a lot of big pickup trucks and running around. We were talking about that earlier. Like New York is very different.
This is a place that you would think there's no traffic, and then there's crazy traffic. And the problem is that at home there's like in the DC area, there's 10 different ways to get somewhere.
Yeah.
Here there might be like 2. So if they're backed up, you're stuck. Like you're also not going anywhere. So that's been a change. But really, the foundation of why I do what I do is dentistry gave my family and I so much. And this is the way that I've chosen to sort of pay my blessings forward. And dental school is so full of dentistry, right? There's just not the time to teach life.
Yeah.
And we kind of exist in this like void, this bubble, Teresa, where like life is going by around you and then you're just plodding along hoping to make your next requirement. And then you're out in the world and you may have a ton of debt and you're not quite sure what you want your life to look like. And I was like, I'm going to take my successes and failures and hopefully disseminate them to as big of an audience as I can. And if it helps someone, then that's great.
So I want to ask you, because this is something I don't think you and I have ever really talked about. So obviously you're outgoing, and when you're outgoing, it's easier to ask for things, right? Is that how it happened with you? You just said, you know what, I want to talk, I want to speak. Because I hear from dentists all the time, I want to get involved. I don't know, like it's always the same people. I feel like just go and ask and put yourself there. Is it really just that simple? Because I feel like it's just that simple, like show up and say, let me help. And I feel like they just take you up on it. Am I simplifying it? Was it easy for you or not really?
So I spent a decade very involved in volunteer leadership in the tripartite. So locally, statewide, nationally, and with New York. So I chaired the New Dentist Committee for the New York State Dental Association. And in my capacity as chair, I got put in front of students, right? Like at dental schools, residency programs for new dentists. And that was sort of my launch pad. Yes, of course, it's easier to ask if you are an extrovert by nature. But I think the value of, and you and I talked about this, a practicing dentist with their hands still in someone's mouth, facing the same struggles, getting up and, going through the grind like the people in your audience, that's invaluable. Yeah. And there's not enough, in my opinion, of that.
So, I think I know the answer, but when I ask people about getting business taught in dental school, it's always there's not enough time. And then, the 2 schools I work with, they always have me talking to the 3rd years. I feel like that's great and I'm grateful for the time, but kind of wish I got them like right after school or right in the 4th year, but I understand 4th year is too crazy. Just drawing from your experience, is the 3rd year too far away for that? Is 4th year the best? Or are you even, as a dental student, are you even thinking about that? Like, are you just trying to grind out,
Good question. Yeah, I think 3rd year can be challenging because you've just started clinic, right? And so for some of us, hand skills don't come naturally. So it's that added pressure and stress. 4th year, I would say, is where you start to make some decisions, but probably the most impactful, honestly, would be the summer before 4th year starts, where 3rd year is ending. It kind of flows one into the other. Some schools give a week off maybe, but that time period I think would be the most impactful. And then it could be a continued conversation throughout the 4th year.
Oh, that's a good idea. I never really thought about that. Maybe I'll make that suggestion next time they try to schedule me. It's always in between labs, always. And I feel like, oh man, and I'll hear back from them, but it'll be like 2 years later.
Right. And the other challenge, obviously, is 4th year people on rotations, people are on interviews. But, there are some times where you'll get the majority of the class in one place at one time. And then if they want to record it and stream it, to give a hybrid option, if you do that, that would probably be the most impactful.
So California Dental Association, you're working with them for the early career dentists. Now, you could have some fun with this one, Omri. Is there a big difference between California dentists and New York dentists? Like, what's going on there? Are they more business savvy, less business savvy, just all sorts?
I think it's all sorts. Obviously there's a lot of similarities because we're big metro areas. There are a lot of dental schools. Of course, there's a lot more in California than New York, but, very saturated areas around cities, multiple dental schools. Most states don't have as many as New York or California, of course, have. And so I think that many students similarly get unleashed into kind of the world and say, wait a second, where is my support? And the thing that we found is that NYU and Columbia, BU, Tufts, to a lesser degree, Harvard, and then the Arizona schools have a lot of California residents in them. So as part of my job duties, we go to Phoenix, we go to Boston, we go to New York City and do a condensed version of the programs that we give to early career dentists in California for these 4th year dental students. But I would say that a lot of the challenges are very similar. Now, obviously, South Dakota is a completely different beast. There is no dental school here, right? So if you are a dentist in South Dakota, much like my husband, you're a townie, right? You went somewhere for school and you came back. Very few people are moving here. So this is completely different. But I would say there is a lot of overlap and similarities between New York.
For your early career dentist curriculum, what are you covering in there? Is it HR? Is it basic business, like productivity, collection? What are you teaching in that?
So, and you'll love this, our big topic last year was demystifying dental benefits. Right? I know. Looks like I channel my inner Teresa. And then we did innovative patient communication strategies this year. Separately, I have time management and conflict resolution programming that I give. So really trying to build a foundation of basics, right? Because there is a lot of high level information available out there, but if you don't have somewhere to start, it's hard to get that and access that. And interestingly, what we've seen is that there's a lot of seasoned dentists that come to these courses. Good. I just did one at the Huntington in San Marino, beautiful space, and there was a lot of seasoned dentists there. There was a former clinic dean from USC there that sold his practice maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And the questions that we're getting from the audience are not just from dental students or associates or new dentists, they're also from the seasoned dentists. And so we're realizing that there's a real need for this. I wrongfully assumed that the building blocks were there. And maybe, as you progress in your career, you just sort of learn on the job. But there's a lot of people that didn't get that foundational knowledge. And so they're relying on their team 100% or outsourced help 100%. And, Teresa, at the end of the day, we're the captains of the ship.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's your license. I mean, and that's always what I come back to is like, no matter what, I mean, I'm always living in the don't commit fraud world, but there's also like, don't screw up HR wise. You don't want to get sued. I mean, an HR lawsuit can put you out of business, or it's going to impact your whole business, malpractice, all that stuff. I mean, it's just crazy. Yeah. When you're talking about conflict resolution, I love that older dentists are coming because younger dentists haven't run into crazy conflicts yet. Like the longer you're in business, the crazy the conflicts get. So it's awesome that they're coming. Are they sharing like, okay, you guys aren't going to believe this?
Oh, yeah. And, it's not just those. It's the patient communication lectures. It's the demystifying dental benefits lectures. And it's nice to see that there's this back and forth between the newer docs and the seasoned docs in the room, but also that they know that there's resources for them. Because like I said, I wrongfully assumed that maybe the seasoned docs, the mid-career doctors knew all this stuff already. And I'm sure you see it more than I do, that that's not the case.
Well, I feel like when they're in a group of other dentists, it's really great for them because if you take a class, like I was just thinking that Star of the North, I gave a management class. There was a mix of doctors and managers in there. Managers were sharing their stories. Doctors, not so much because doctors don't want to share that they're completely, like befuddled. Well, I get it. But in your class, with more dentists in there, you guys can get really like raw with each other and they need that. They really do. I mean, there's nobody out there, even the big guys out there and ladies out there teaching it. When you peel back the curtain sometimes, and my colleagues and I, we've all, consulted at one point or another with somebody who's big. And it's been surprising, like their stuff isn't all packed up tight either. So, don't feel like I'm going to aspire to this guy who says everything right from the stage. Man, it's hard. That person probably went through a whole staff turnover last year. He's not going to tell you about it.
And, so many people get starry-eyed over what they see on social media, right? Yeah. Dental social media, especially in the post-pandemic world we live in. And gosh, you just don't know what's going on behind the scenes, right? Yeah. You just don't.
Yeah. What are they dealing with now? I know the staff shortage has got to be big. Do you feel like that's getting better or what?
I don't. Period. That's really the short answer. I don't feel like it's getting better. I think the other challenge is that you're getting a lot more graduates, right? New grads that are associating somewhere, that want to buy a practice or not. And then there's this big knowledge gap, right? Like they don't know where to start. Okay. And when they go looking for information, it's not easily accessible. So where are they turning? Teresa, they're going to Facebook groups, right? They're going to the internet. They're going to Instagram coaches. And I talk to so many new doctors, and some of the advice that I hear that they've paid a lot of money for is, right, like unvetted, unverified. And where did you get it, right? It's this person I saw on social media that has 10,000 followers. Like, wait a second, right? Wait a second, because now you're going to take that, hold on to it, and take it with you into your career. You got to be careful. And I actually just made a reel about this, in this age where we consume data, right, so rapidly in clips and byte and whatever, you have to be very careful.
You do.
You just have to. Yep. So I think that's another challenge. And obviously, right, reimbursements, which is your wheelhouse, right, in dental benefits is, you're getting squeezed from one end and you're getting squeezed from the other end. And it's hard to navigate. It's hard to navigate.
So the one side of that is I appreciate the doctors who reach out to me and they say, okay, I heard you say this. Can I get a link or can I get some proof? And there's part of me that's like, oh, come on. But then there's part of me that's like, I'm so glad that they're asking, because if they didn't ask, then, what if I went rogue? What if I started spouting out nonsense? I've got a ton of followers. I could tomorrow turn into evil Teresa and give all sorts of bad advice, right? Evil Teresa. And
evil Teresa, your alter ego.
Yeah. And I would be like, bill whatever you want, write off whatever you want. And people would
There's a form for that.
Yeah. There's the almighty form. So here's the deal. I'm so glad that people want to look for proof, but there's also Google. Like you can also Google it too and find official, sources of information. And my litmus test for people is, are you comfortable taking that blog article or that person's post into court with you? If you're not, then maybe we should do a little bit more looking. But for you, so benefits isn't just my wheelhouse though, Amri, you're teaching on it too. What are the questions that you're getting on benefits? I mean, what are the new dentists asking?
New dentists are asking, quite simply, I would think the biggest question is, how do we make this work for us?
Okay.
And are we doing something wrong by not being fee for service? And I literally just said this in a lecture last week. If you would believe what everyone says, everyone's fee for service, everyone's gone out of network, and everyone's killing it, right? But the ADA Health Policy Institute has the data, right? They know what the average salaries are. They know what, how many people are in network with insurances on average. So we know that, right, the average dentist is in network with at least 3 plans. And I have people saying, listen, how do I make this work? Right? Like I'm acquiring a practice that they're in network with, or I am going to be an associate at multiple places and I have to sign these contracts. I don't know where to start. I would say that's a big question I get. The other thing that I get questions about is, well, how is treatment planning, right? Like how do we treatment plan? And I always say, we're not treatment planning to the plan, we're treatment planning for the patient.
Yeah.
Because this all comes back to how you want to be treated. And an interesting thing that I realized recently is patients aren't being informed at all, really, about what product they're purchasing, right? So they go to their HR department at their big corporation during orientation week, right? And here's your health, here's your medical, here's your vision, here's your dental. And they're like, oh, we want the plan that has adult orthodontic coverage because we didn't wear our retainer when we were young, right? And so now they pick whatever plan. It's maybe the most expensive one that takes the most money out of their paychecks.
Yeah.
And they're not educated that adult means 18, 21, or 26. They come to your office and now you're the bad guy, right? Or your office manager is the bad guy saying, wait a second, you've got to pay. This doesn't cover it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's that unraveling and providing information. These are the questions that I get asked the most.
I'm wondering if for a new dentist coming out, especially if they're really good at being on camera and being out there, maybe those open houses would be a good thing to do. I mean, a lot of people have questions about benefits, or at least just record yourself and put it on the website. I know some managers have done that where they've said, here's a quick explanation of what your benefits look like. They have no idea. Like to your point, they have no idea. They don't even think there's any loaded clauses in there. So
right, nothing. They have no clue.
And you're right. We get the blame. We totally get the blame. So what I'm thinking about is the environment of these new dentists coming out. They're probably hearing all the scary stuff. Your student debt's going to be ridiculous. You're going to get like your butt handed to you by the insurance companies. So they're already coming out with in defensive mode. Have you met any though that just want to go completely fee for service, completely avoid insurance? Like they're brave enough to do that, or they're in an area they can do that? Have you met any of those?
I've met some that want to be that, or, maybe are in a place. And I think you said this during one of our conversations, you need to make sure that you have the people and communication skills, right? More than anything. So in our practices, we consider the difference between our usual fee and our contracted fee as a marketing write-off, because it's a form of marketing,
for sure,
right?
For sure.
And so the people that I meet that do have that mindset, I tell them that you better make sure that you have buy-in from your team. Even if you're an associate, you still have a team. You have an assistant, you have a hygienist, you've got front office. You need to make sure that you've got buy-in from everyone, that everyone's speaking the same language. And this is where membership plans, I think, are great. So there is some information out there about membership plans, but one of the things that I spend a lot of time educating some of these doctors about is, here's what we use for our membership plan. Here's how it's set up. This is how you present it to patients. Because if you're going to be, completely out of network or fee for service, you need to make sure you have all those boxes checked.
Yeah. Well, it kind of concerns me, the whole thing. When you said they question you about treatment plans, I do see this, and I'm hoping it's not getting ingrained. I do see dentists paying more attention to the benefits, and those benefit guidelines become clinical guidelines. And for a younger dentist, I feel like that's really hard for them to buck that trend, especially if the veteran dentist is saying, here's what we do, and you must go by it. I mean, any advice for young dentists to not go down that path?
Ask the question at your interview. I think that if you can set expectations and boundaries very clearly on the front end, you'll know what you're getting into. And maybe if it's a place that isn't aligned with your values and the way you want to practice, it's better that you find out early on rather than when you're 6 months in and now you're leaving and you're owed a paycheck that you may never actually collect, right? We've all heard those nightmare stories. Yeah. So I think it's important to ask, what's your treatment planning protocol? If someone tells you they only want to do what their insurance covers and they clearly need quadrant dentistry or a lot of work, how do you speak to those patients? Again, because you need to make sure that you're speaking the same way too. These patients are coming to you probably after having seen the owner doctor or the other doctors in the practice. Yeah. So I would say the number one piece of advice I have, and really it's not just for that, it's for all of it, right? Because we hear doctors saying, hey, I'm getting paid 35% of collections. but they don't realize that the contracted rate on average for the crowns in that office are $700, right? So they expect 35% of, 1,500, but it's really not. So you got to ask those questions at the front end.
So tell me a couple horror stories that you've heard. Just doesn't have to be benefits related, because you're dealing with new doctors all the time. I mean, some of the arrangements I've heard from transitions brokers, I'm like, oh man, I wish somebody had taken that doctor and yanked them out of that whole arrangement. But what have you seen? Like, what are some really terrible things that you've seen happen so people can avoid it?
Yep. I have seen, and it is so common, Teresa, people that don't have signed contracts. I don't care if you are going into practice with your childhood dentist, your mom's best friend, whoever it is, you must have a signed contract, right?
Wait, so they start seeing patients and there's no ink on the contract yet?
Correct.
What?
Correct.
Wow.
Or they're going back and forth about edits and they don't have a final copy of the contract.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Or, there's nothing in the contract spelled out about, like, if they get a sign-on bonus, what happens if they leave before a year? Do they owe the sign-on bonus back? There's no clauses in the contract about who's responsible for redos.
Oh, wow. Okay. Because, that can really hurt.
Yeah, that can really hurt. And we see this a lot with those new doctors that are associates, especially. And the other thing I see very frequently is there'll be an issue. The doctor will want to leave the practice. And then it's like, okay, so you signed this contract. Did you have an attorney review it? Oh, no, because that was going to be expensive. Spend the money on the front end for an employment attorney. And specifically someone that deals with contracts.
Yeah.
And obviously your dental associations, no matter where you are, have good contacts for that. But those are the big horror stories. Secondary to that, of course, is the doctor that is working at multiple practices, and one of them is fee for service. And then one of them is in network with everything. And there's some sort of clause in there that now they're in network everywhere they go, right? And they don't realize what they've signed until they start getting EOBs with a reduced fee.
Yeah. And that's so hard to walk back. That takes so much. That's Excel spreadsheets like on steroids. Like you track everything.
Which directly impacts at the end of the day what the office is getting paid and what you get paid. And I think the last thing, the big horror story that I hear over and over, and not just from doctors now, from team members, from people that are interested in bettering their systems, is gigantic AR, right? And my dad always says the best way to deal with AR is to prevent it.
Yeah. Right? Wise. Yeah, totally wise.
And some of that is like as simple as, I gave you the example of the adult orthodontic benefit. If you're not verifying what adult means on every patient, you're going to do a lot of reduced cost ortho. If you're not making sure that preventative is covered at 100%, which sometimes it's not, more and more frequently, you're going to be chasing people with like a $6.20 balance, right? Which just ages and ages and ages and ages.
Yeah. And meanwhile, your $25 an hour employee is chasing this balance. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Not at all. So these are the common messes that I see.
So it's funny that you said that about AR. This is something that's been coming up a lot lately. So at a recent conference, I was on a panel discussion. It was recorded with Care Credit and a couple other consultants. My friend Dana Johnson was on there. She's owner of Navoni, Dentrix trainer, but also RCM person. And we had talked about this before the panel. We believe that AR is out of control now, even though we have the most amount of tools. And it's because the back end of AR isn't being paid attention to. Everybody is really focused on verification, getting the benefits, making sure the claims go out with attachments, that when the balances happen in the back end because something went wrong, nobody's chasing that down. Now we're just in a send a statement and a text mode. Nobody's working that. When in the early days of dentistry, and I'm just saying, like when I started in my early days of dentistry, when we had an outstanding balance, true patient balance, we would pick up the phone and we would call. We would send the statements, and we would, we had time, we could write something on there, please pay your bill. I feel like people are not pursuing that. I don't know if it's because the people in the office don't want to upset. Maybe they're not confident about the bill. Maybe they feel bad that there was a bill, or maybe they just feel like we've set up all these automations. We don't need to follow up on it. And we both felt that the amount of AR is getting out of control, but it's the back end AR, right? And then we had another meeting, my dental revenue network, we had another all hands meeting. And that was another thing. They're finding out that their offices are asking them can you handle the back end, the collections piece? And you're bringing it up. Somebody else brought it up in a class earlier. I mean, I think you're right. I think AR is getting out of control and nobody's really kind of waking up to it because we all think it's getting automated and we just forget. So that's interesting that you're hearing it from, and that's actually like a top 3 thing. That's pretty interesting. So the new dentist, and I think a lot of them don't understand that you have collections laws. There's certain things you can and can't do. You can't harass a patient, right? But you can't let it go. I mean, you have an obligation to try to collect it. Plus, you got to pay your bills.
Right. Well, and I think the spirit of the best way of dealing with AR is to prevent it. In our offices in New York, all our patients prepay. I am not the bank. I don't go to the grocery store and fill up my cart and waltz out and say, bill me, right? Okay. Yeah. So to the best of our abilities, everyone prepays before we put a needle in someone's mouth, before we touch a drill or a scaler to a tooth. And you know what? I would rather have someone at the front call a patient and say, guess what? We've got a refund check waiting for you.
For sure.
Come pick it up, rather than, hey, you owe us $6.20. Hey, you know? Yeah. And so that's another important question that anyone that's new or an associate or, you know, whatever watching this should ask offices, what is your payment policy? Because that's going to directly impact how you get paid. And if you're looking to purchase a practice and they have a gigantic AR, understand that if you buy that AR and it's because of, you know, no one's but dealing with the back end, you might never collect on it.
So people who are listening who are newer to dentistry, I just want to explain what she's talking about as far as the collections piece. Many associates are paid on collection. And if we don't collect, I mean, just getting the co-insurance amount is not going to pay your bills, new dentist. So she's saying if you don't follow the money all the way back into the office, there's a chance that you're not going to get paid at all. So this promised salary estimate is not going to be there. And if you're writing off bad debt, it's just, when you add it up, it's tremendous, first of all. And then the other piece is what you were saying is when you go to sell the practice, or go to buy the practice, you're buying that AR, right? Because you're assuming you're going to collect it. But if you don't actively collect it, then you've just bought, you know, this big old liability there. And so when you are talking to dentists and telling them, how about prepayment? I'm curious, you as an instructor, because now we got like instructor talk here. How do they react to that? Because when I say prepay, there's a certain reaction. I'm wondering what yours is.
So I say, this might be an unpopular opinion, but all my patients prepay. And I say, look, now I pick someone out of the audience and say, Teresa, you've been a patient of mine for 15 years. You need 2 fillings. I'm not going to whip out my TI 83, calculate the copay, and make you prepay to hold the appointment. But, you know, a multi-step procedure, something I'm going to incur a lab fee on, a new patient, they're prepaying. And I give the example of the groceries. And then here's the other thing, which I kind of follow with. In our practices, our doctors tell patients how much things cost.
Okay.
So again, we do not sit there and calculate to the cent. But Teresa, if you're in my chair and we've been doing wellness scans on you every time you come in, and we can see that those teeth are shifting and shifting, and we've been having that aligner conversation. If you tell me, you know what, I know we talked about it a while ago, I think it's expensive. My doctors are trained to say it is. It's $7,000, and we've got ways that, you know, we can make that all work so we can get you healthy to a place where you don't need us, because that is our mission and vision statement. We don't want our patients to be in an emergency situation. So it's all of that stitched together, and that's how I frame it at my lectures. And I get a lot of questions afterwards. I get people emailing, texting, calling, whatever, asking, how do we make this switch? Logically, this makes sense to us, but you know, talking money is daunting. How do we make this switch? It makes so much sense. And I tell them, listen, if you go to the vet and your pet needs a procedure, you have to leave your pet there. Doesn't the vet turn around and give you a low estimate and a high estimate? Yeah. Don't they make you pay the low estimate before you leave? So why have we in dentistry accepted that we're going to be the bank for everyone? We're
100%.
Not.
Yeah, no, totally. And so it sounds like you and I get the same reaction. Yours might be a little bit delayed because they're reaching out to you. I have 2 very distinct reactions. I have people who go, heck yeah, we've been doing this for a while. And then we get the other people going, oh, our patients would never go for it. Well, I mean, you're thinking of like the 3 most annoying patients. That's what you're thinking of. Your other patients will go for it. They just don't know that's what your policy is or what you want to do. They're not going for it because you've never asked them to.
If I have to prepay for my like Botox, my hair, and my brows, and again, I just whip out these examples.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. We as a profession, we as dentists, as people involved in this profession, have just decided to accept something that's not normal in literally most fields.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other example I give is if you go buy a new car, obviously the sticker price is on the whatever, on one of the windows.
Yeah.
But it's the salesman that walks you through all the options, tells you how much it's going to be, discusses the price with you. It's not Teresa at the front or Teresa, the finance manager. You already know before you get there, because that person that is expecting you to spend 70 grand, which is a lot of money, said, I respect you enough to tell you this. This is it.
Yeah.
Right. And then it makes the whole chain easier. Now, when they come to you at the front, it's not, what do you mean? Dr. Patel never said that. I'll call you.
Yeah.
Right. And when do they call? They call on Thanksgiving or July 4th.
Or they make the appointment and then they cancel. And then the poor doctor's sitting there going, I thought I nailed that. And then they didn't. So I love that you're doing that, because I mean, I can do it from the rafters, but hearing it from another doctor is very impactful. And there is a reason why many of the teams have been taking training to do treatment plan presentations and all of that. But when the doctor is confident to say it the way you just said it, our job becomes infinitely easier. And I'm not saying I want every doctor talking about money. Not every doctor can, but once you get over the fear of it, you're right, it is daunting. I mean, so you obviously didn't have a problem, but there probably was a day when you were a little nervous. I mean, I asked for money all the time, and those first couple months of asking for money, I was a disaster. Like, how did you get over it?
Well, I think, and even now, right, even in the non-clinical part of my career, I know that I have value. I know that I have done a lot of work, have worked on myself, have a lot of training similar to dentistry. And so, you went to school or you did a lot of work so that you can do your job confidently in, the best, most optimal amount of time possible. And, start with patients that maybe you feel more comfortable with. That's how I started. Start with things that are flat fees that you don't have to go calculating things out, right? I gave you the example of aligners, or, maybe an implant, or 4 quads of scaling and root planing. Have that conversation with people that you have good rapport with first. And as you start to have that conversation, and as your front office's job becomes infinitely easier, and as the morale of the team improves, and as your collections goes up and your AR goes down, you'll realize that's your motivation.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, because honestly, like, this whole conversation from a scheduling point of view is so easy, because when they come up, so doctors, if you're not doing this and you're kind of a little bit timid about it, we're not saying like you're terrible. You can improve. That's not what we're saying. But I want to tell you what's happening. You're doing this. You're kind of being a little wishy-washy. You're saying, we want to do this. It's up to you. Don't say that. It's not up to the patient, right? It's up to you. Don't do that. But when they come out not 100% sold on why they need the treatment, when we get them ready to schedule, we actually have to do that all over again. And so if you send them out of the operatory and they are ready to go, they understand, and all we have to do is schedule it, there's less chance of those balls being dropped. And if you have somebody who's not confident scheduling, they could mess that up. They weren't in there listening. They don't know what you said. They could say something totally different. I've seen that happen a million times. So the confidence, and then that confidence kind of is in the air. I've seen that happen. When you have a very confident doctor, the whole office is confident. And if you're not a born leader, that's okay, as long as you recognize it and then you go for it. Like somebody reaching out to you, asking you for help, like that's the first step. I'm glad they're doing that.
Yeah. And I give at the end of all my lectures, my personal cell phone number, my personal contact information, my Instagram, specifically for that reason. Because I know that sometimes, it's intimidating to ask those questions in an audience, right? Where you don't know who's kind of around. But I would say that the easiest place to start is the patients you have good rapport with, the procedures that you're very confident in doing, and start there. And like I said, when you see how much it positively affects your entire environment and associates, if you're listening, same with you. Because remember, this all goes back to the better the office is doing, the better that your team is doing, the better that you are going to do.
Nice.
Right. And so I think that that's probably the best place to start.
So let me get your opinion on office manager stuff. And then I want to talk a little bit about benefits, because, that's just my jam. So office managers, you have seen a lot of different arrangements. You've worked with several office managers, primarily my audience. Are there things that we should know that maybe we don't know that's going on in the mind of a dentist? Are there things you guys are worried about that we don't think about? Like what is it that you wish we understood?
That the scariest conversations that we have are probably with upset employees and not upset patients.
Interesting. You're more scared of me being upset than Mrs. Jones? That's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, and I hear it from dentists all the time that stresses them out more to have to manage team issues than an upset patient. And obviously all of this stems from miscommunication, but I would say that actively is something that stresses most doctors out. It stresses me out.
Yeah. Okay.
And so having that partner, and again, that partner that's been given job duties and is allowed to do his or her job without being micromanaged because like guilty, right? Well, a lot of us do that, is so key. But yeah, definitely. I would rather talk to a patient that was mad than a team member that was mad any day.
That's hilarious. Well, we don't go away. We're there all day. So that's another thing. Yeah. Yep. And I know assistants always, like, having your assistant mad at you is awful. Because I can imagine, like, Jean and I, the girl who took over my position, we worked right next to each other. If we were not happy with each other all day, it was a terrible day for everyone. So I can just imagine operatory setting. I'm sure the patients can feel that, like, vibrating off of you guys.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say that that's probably the first thing that popped into my head.
Would you rather that we take a little bit more initiative and start to do more HR stuff? I mean, how would you handle it? What if you've got somebody who is really good, but doesn't want to overstep? Because that is a problem, right? Like when a manager tries to put in place policies, guidelines, whatever, maybe they discipline a team member and then the doctor doesn't back them up. Then the manager's like, I'm never doing that again. So if you were in that kind of manager newness growing into something bigger, what would you do in that situation?
Well, first of all, I would ask the doctor what the expectations are in the form of very defined job duties, right? Because if you don't have job duties and you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, then it's always going to feel like you're overstepping, right? If it's not all kind of written down. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that you need to have the conversation about, okay, how do you want me to handle, like, drama in the office? Do you want there to be scheduled time at the end of the day? Is it something that I should be pulling people aside right away? Do you want me to run it by you first? There's some doctors that are like, do whatever you want, right? We sign off on it. Right. And there's other doctors that are like, I want to know.
Yeah.
And so I think when the wires get crossed is when you've got someone that wants to be hands off and someone that wants to know, and then the expectations weren't laid out.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, I know I talk to lots of managers who want to have that wonderful relationship, to be like the second, like the real person who is really like the engine behind everything. And I see that more often than I don't. I hear from doctors all the time, I wish I could find someone who was looking out for the office, have ownership mentality. And I feel like there's a lot of us that have ownership mentality without being an owner. Maybe we're just in the wrong place. I mean, maybe they're just not in an office that can make a difference right now. But I feel like there's room in offices for somebody to have real ownership mentality and not overstep.
Yeah. And I think that it's definitely about finding that right balance and that right environment for you. Look, us dentists are guilty of thinking we can do everything. We very clearly cannot. Cannot.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Those offices do exist where you can feel empowered and like you are making a difference and also kind of working hand in hand with the doctor, but then also with the team members. Being busy and being productive are two different things, right? I don't want to be busy all day because I'm not trying to do everything. I want to empower my team with specific job duties and tasks and then have my business team manager oversee all of that. And then I want to work in tandem with him or her.
So speaking of being busy and not productive, let's go back to benefits, because I feel like that's the number one thing I hear dentists saying is they're always on the phone. I'm paying for all these services. Are they actually using the services? Like they feel like there's no ROI from the spend that they're making. Because really it's ROI to just maintain your income. It's not like when you buy a piece of equipment, you're supposed to your income's supposed to get bigger. But because you're doing more, but with insurance software, you're spending money just to make sure you're recapturing the same amount of money. There's no growth.
Exactly.
So, and then doctors see this labor spend as totally an expense. There's no, profitability there. One doctor said, at least my hygienist generates revenue. And I was like, okay, that we're totally looking at this differently. Can't argue with that, but we're looking at this differently.
Right.
So as a dentist, are you hearing that they're upset about labor? Are they upset about the complexity? Like what is frustrating them the most about the whole benefits thing?
The ever-changing rules.
Okay.
Sometimes with no notice. And the fact that it feels like we're getting squeezed every way, right? You've got the people that are coming out with huge student loans You've got the practice owners, even if they're not new, that have huge practice debt. They've got to keep their lights on, and reimbursements are stagnant largely. So they just feel like, and then they have to pay out in order to chase that stagnant or decreasing amount of dollars and cents.
Yeah.
That would be what I hear. That's the biggest issue I hear.
Yeah, definitely. It feels they're like, I have to spend money in order to make money, and it's not in a good way, you know? And the virtual credit card thing, I think, has really just pushed a lot of people. I think virtual credit cards and these networks that, like, it's almost like hot potato. The doctor feels like they're being thrown around. I think those two things are really what's upsetting doctors the most. And I don't see how that changes anytime soon unless there's legislation. So one thing that you and I can talk about, because you are very active in organized dentistry, and same with Dr. Bateman, who was on earlier, the ADA from a national point of view is not going to get these laws passed. It's the states, right? So are you seeing a lot more action at the state levels for, I mean, because when you came out of school, I don't think the legislation was quite as busy, different state legislatures, but I definitely feel like they are very busy nowadays.
They are. I mean, I think some states have a more robust effort than others. I will shout out California because, of course, that's my team, and obviously New York because that's home. But I think there's a lot of places that are just complacent, and they're complacent because there's no real noise being made, right? Or it's not being brought up, or it's not being talked about by the doctors. So a lot of people choose to sort of complain to their friends or complain online. Where you can make a difference is grassroots, right? Go to your local component society, talk to your local legislators, talk to your state legislators. I mean, these changes are going to happen at the state and not federal level. Yeah. So I would say that there's definitely states that are doing it better than others. Washington is another one that's obviously very active and has a very active push. Mm-hmm. But like I said, there's other places that just don't.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and the carriers too have realized that they are putting a lot more energy into the states as well. So it's interesting as an outsider kind of watching it all. I've just never seen so much activity on the state levels, and
so much activity.
Oh my gosh. So I mean, on both sides. And it's just interesting to me that, of course, the ones that they're focusing on right now, like NCOIL, the whole, that whole model, and I can link so people can read about that. I don't want to get too into depth on that. That is a big attention draw, but really what I'm hearing the biggest issues coming up that the carriers are concerned with and the legislators are asking for input on, the virtual credit cards and the network transparency laws. Like those two seem to be the big juggernauts that are coming along.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's like the doctors feel like they're like hot potato. Like, what am I a network with? What am I being leased to? What's going on? Like, oh, I didn't sign up for this. What is this? Right. And you only find out when you start getting mail. So that's the other thing is there's just such a lack of transparency, or so doctors feel. Mm-hmm. And so it just makes it hard to make any decisions, right? Even business decisions. Hey, how do I evaluate if I should go out of network this year with plan X or not? How do I know, right? Well, if I stay in network with this through this kind of arrangement, I might get a higher reimbursement than if I'm just directly contracted with them, right? It just muddies the water so much and makes it so hard to make those decisions. Like I said, I think it's just this mass confusion.
Well, and a lot of the network arrangement changes are broadcast only to the doctors that it's impacting. But the problem is a lot of doctors are being impacted, but they're not getting notified. And I almost wish that the carriers would publicize it instead of it should be a press release. This arrangement is happening. And honestly, I would love for them to notify the state dental associations and let the state dental associations put something out. But I know that the carriers are like, well, that's not really in our best interest. And probably the associations are going to be like, oh gosh, then we're going to be sending this out all the time. I'm sure that's not the answer, but other than putting out a billboard, we've got to find a way. Like you said, the transparency's got to be there. I don't know what other methods of communication they've got. So dentists listening here and managers too, log on to your portals and find out who the heck is getting these notifications, because they're supposed to send it by mail. They're supposed to send it by email, but I can't tell you how many doctors, it's somebody's manager that 4 managers ago is the email and they're getting the notification. So doctors go onto the portal and double check your stuff. Yeah. Take some initiative on that.
Yeah. You can't sort of outsource everything to everyone else. Again, you are the captain of your ship. Like you said, it's your license. It's your name on the door.
Well, so you are now starting a podcast. I'm excited. So we'll put the link in the show notes, and it kind of makes sense that I brought it up at the end. I didn't know this was going to flow this way, but your confidence, the treatment planning, the talking to patients, you're going to now partner with your best friend and who's also a dentist, and you're going to talk about these types of issues, right? So tell me about the podcast, because I'm super excited you're doing it. I love more podcasts. Yes.
Thank you. We're really excited. So my best friend from dental school, who I met on the very first day of orientation, because we were seated in sim lab, and my last name is Patel and hers is Nguyen. So we were P and N directly across from each other. Dr. Diana Nguyen is chair of all the pre-doc clinics at the University of California, San Francisco.
Nice. Okay.
So yeah, she's been there a while. She is amazing, has won all sorts of awards, and has just kind of been my rock for 18 years. I mean, we talk every single day on the phone, and she's in California and I'm in South Dakota. Yeah. And we realize that these conversations that we've been having about career transitions, careers, academia, private practice, ownership, not DSO, whatever, these conversations, and then especially the ones that she hears and has with her students, because she's just got this captive audience there, of course, every year, would be beneficial to put out so that more people could hear them in a way that's, again, easily digestible and easily accessible. So Project Confidence, CONFI Dents, nice. Little play on the word, is going to be launching in the next couple weeks. And I'm really excited to hopefully be able to disseminate more information in a kind of familiar, personal way to, like I said, as many people as we can reach. So we're really excited.
This is what I'm finding. A lot of people, I'll hear the feedback about the podcast is that they feel like I'm being real. I'm not dumbing it down. I'm not trying to, be somebody I'm not. And I could totally see that coming across with you. So I haven't met your friend, fellow, I'm guessing she's a fellow Vietnamese, maybe she's full Vietnamese.
Yep, she is.
Yeah. So, shout out to my fellow yellow. I know that's probably bad to say, but you know what it is. It is what it is. You know me, Omri. I'll say crazy things. So I'm glad. I look forward to meeting her and look forward to hearing her. So we'll definitely put that in the show notes. We need more confident voices out there, because it's not that hard once you're started, but this getting started part, man, like really taking ownership of your career and saying, I'm going to change, darn it. That's hard. That's hard.
Change is scary, period, right? No matter what you're trying to change. But I think the important thing for anyone listening out there to know is that there's resources available to you, right? You don't have to pay a coach that you saw on Instagram or someone that you saw posting on Facebook thousands of dollars. There's plenty of people that will have conversations with you. And maybe that's what you need to empower you to, like you said, make that change, whatever it may be.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I mean, that's something I know that dentistry has been really rocked lately by, some really sad happenings, mental health and people, taking their own lives and stuff. I'm hoping that that is not as taboo to talk about as it used to be. And I feel like if we just really talk to each other without trying to sell each other something, so much magic happens. Yes. And I just don't see that a lot on the Facebook groups. Somebody will ask for a recommendation on something, and I'm almost afraid to put something there because I know it's going to get deleted because it's not a sponsor of that certain group, right? So I think people are, and I think that's why my membership has really, become popular, is because you can say what you need to, and people at the end of the day just want to talk to each other and be real. And so congratulations on starting it. Look forward to it. Thank you. Are you a dental biller feeling overwhelmed and isolated? I get it. The world of revenue cycle management is complex and ever-changing. That's why I created Dental Revenue Network. Our membership community was created to help you become a better revenue cycle manager and small business operator. Say goodbye to feeling alone and hello to a supportive community of dental billing professionals. Here's what you'll get: monthly billing-focused meetings with peers and experts, business building sessions to elevate your career, resource libraries tailored for billers and billing company owners, introductions to cutting-edge RCM technologies and companies, and a vibrant community for networking and support. Ready to transform your dental billing experience? Visit dentalrevenuenetwork.com today. Don't wait. Join us now and navigate the business of RCM with confidence. How do people get in touch with you? Look how fast this went by. How do people get in touch?
Crazy. You can find me on Instagram at Dr. Amrita Patel, and also on LinkedIn. And I know we'll kind of put the links to those and the information for those along with this podcast. But I have a lot of meetings around the country. I'm all over the place. And so I love meeting new people. So if you are somewhere that I'm going to be, definitely stop me and say hi.
Awesome. Awesome. And if you find an adorable little dog on her Instagram, you're on the right place. So
yeah,
it's so cute. But well, thank you so much. I appreciate this. We'll have more conversations like this.
Yeah.
And so, dear listeners, look at the link for all the show notes on how you can connect with her, more information on Dental Revenue Network. And as always, I really appreciate that you spend your time with me.
If you learned something new today, subscribing is the best way to support the channel and keep learning with us.
We're all super busy, so thank you for making time for me today. The show notes will have any links that we referenced in the episode. You can also find links for my book, events, and my online insurance course, Dental Insurance Design and Management. I speak often around the country on management and insurance issues. Come hang out with me in one of my classes. I promise you'll laugh and learn.